which is what the virus, particularly coronavirus, utilizes to manufacture its machinery inside of our bodies so that it can replicate itself inside. Zinc can interfere with that, and we know that quercetin is an ionophore that allows zinc to enter the cell. Zinc can't readily enter the cell, but an ionophore allows for zinc to enter the cell so that zinc can have its helpful production within the cell in order to fight the virus from within. Zinc also is a part of a superoxide dismutase, which also is important for attacking the superoxide state that coronavirus causes. NAC right here, we call it NAC, is N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine is a compound you can buy in health stores that is very helpful in interfering with the sulfur bonds that are created by clots with von Willebrand factor. It's also helpful in fighting the superoxidized state that the coronavirus causes when it attacks our vasculature. So we actually promote people to take NAC if they think that they're coming down with COVID and they have the symptoms. I'm going to stop right there because I'd like for the brother that you've asked to come on that is interested in talking to us about these subjects. I'd like to hear what he has to say, and I welcome this, and thank you, Vince.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and welcome Inherit Sean Calfani. He is a member of the Mossy Warrior Clan and a few other groups of brothers who are engaged in quantitative research, and they're very much into science and history, and they have some very interesting perspectives. And he has been monitoring both of our broadcasts today, and he has some questions, he has some issues that he'd like to bring to the table. So we will welcome him into our broadcast. Welcome to the show, brother.
Appreciate you, Vince, for having me. Thanks for having me on. Peace to the panel. Dear brother and sister, appreciate you both for taking your time out to have the dialogue. I know Uncle's trying to get into, Vince, but real brief. You had mentioned, first I wanted to deal with what you just recently mentioned. Zinc, vitamin D, some even throw in vitamin C as potential treatments, right? We're talking about the immune system, and we're talking about you can't, if you boost your immune system, you could kill yourself. So I like to use a better word than boost, which would mean, it depends on how you're defining boost. Let me rephrase that. I would like to use strengthening the immune system. When you strengthen the immune system, it'll help you fight fight off any type of bacterium or virus, right? So, you named a good list of things that I'm in full agreements with: proper rest, eating right, exercising. Those are essential, potential nutrients, like, some people may say certain supplements or things of that nature can help. But overall, none of those things can stop you from being infected with COVID-19. There's no food supplement that can cause an immune response to defend the immune system against COVID-19. That we know based on the actual data. So with zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D, double-blind randomized clinical trials have been done on 222 people. This randomized trial was published on Jamba Network just a few days ago. And the clinical trial lasted from April of last year all the way through October with this clinical trial. And the trial was halted earlier because they found no relevance there in the research. And they went through months of research and study to only come to an end that says we're halting this because the data is not sufficient enough to show that this is actually preventing or treating anything. And I think our people really need to understand, because they think, okay, once you get infected, but what happens is, and I heard this on the show, is that, you know, you said, you know, once you get infected, you get this natural immunity. Well, these antibodies that you create only last for a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, possibly 3. There's been cases where multiple people have been reinfected. And I know one in particular that lives literally 15 minutes from me that's been reinfected twice already. And there's others who've been reinfected 3 times. And we're talking about a novel virus that's been out a year. So we're not developing any type of real immunity against this virus. So my question that I wanted to pose is, if anything I said that you're in agreement with, what what real problems do you have with mRNA vaccines? Because I heard you mention the viral vector viruses like the adenoviruses, which would be the Johnson & Johnson, because you were more common to the understanding or the technology in that second generation vaccine. So what real issues do you actually have with the mRNA vaccines? And then I got another one about Russia.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So the information that you provided as far as 220 patients with vitamin D, I don't know about the study, but I would certainly be interested in the information. I do know that there are metadata analysis and at least 10 different studies, and hopefully we can get a segment on Vince's show where we pull out those papers where there are hundreds of thousands of people that were tested to see whether vitamin D3 had an impact on the outcomes of not only coronavirus, but other viruses or other similar respiratory viruses. And monumentally, there was a difference between the level of vitamin 3 in the outcomes. It is not, and I hope that nobody is getting the impression that we're saying that vitamin D3 is a cure for coronavirus. Get that out of your head. But it helps to dampen down the viral load and allows for you to have better outcomes. The other issue that we must address is what you ask about messenger RNA, which is a very important question. So as I said on earlier, that messenger RNA must be read by ribosomes. Ribosomes read our message for DNA. And ribosomes are not foolproof in reading the message coming from the DNA, even in our own system. Without a vaccine at all, our messenger RNAs make mistakes sometimes. They're called ribosomal misreads. You can Google it, and you could read about ribosomal misreads. If the Pfizer and Moderna are entering the messenger RNA that is from the M protein spike on the coronavirus, it's entering it into what is called a lipid nanoparticle. It is a foreign particle to our body. It's designed to be similar to the plasma membrane or cell membrane of our cells, but it is a foreign lipid, it's a foreign fat. And they're inputting this messenger RNA that's also manufactured into it. The lipid nanoparticles itself are going to merge with our cells and merge the lining of our plasma membranes with that lipid nanoparticle. That lipid nanoparticle is always going to be there. And once that lipid nanoparticle allows for the messenger RNA to get inside of the cell, the ribosome has to read it, and has to read it over and over again, and has to get it right. If it doesn't get it right, it can create a foreign protein, because the messenger RNA reads the codons. It reads adenine, thymine, cytosine, and in this case, uracil instead of thymine, because it's RNA and not DNA. And when it does that, if it makes a mistake, it can create foreign proteins in our bodies. And you said yourself that the coronavirus can begin to mutate, and we need to have booster shots from the vaccine. And each year, if you're continually injecting foreign lipid nanoparticles as well as foreign messenger RNAs that can have misreads, you're increasing your chances for tissue, connective tissue disorders, fibrosis, as well as cancer such as soft tissue sarcoma. And those are my points.
All right, I want to respond to the nanoparticles. So this technology has been effective since 1995. So this is not new technology regarding the nanoparticles. All right, now the messenger from the mRNA vaccines dissolve. So they're using that technology of the nanoparticles to get it where it needs to go into the cell. It's there for a short time and it's out of the body within less than 4 days. So the assumption that it stays and it's going to do all of this other stuff is irrelevant. It doesn't change the DNA. It doesn't change the complexity of anything. It is there to deliver the message basically to the body to say, hey, look, you're about to encounter a foreign pathogen, something foreign unbeknownst to you outside of yourself. The way to defend that is you need to learn, which is you need to learn how to create your own spike protein so that when you come into contact with this, the severity of the virus will not impact you and you won't have experienced death, because the efficacy rates in 94 and 95% efficacy rates, and the data trials actually show and prove. So this is why I like the scientific method, because it's real time. We're seeing this in real time. Also, Vince, can you let Ankh on real quick? I know you want to address the nanoparticles and some other things. Also, there was a claim made that the Russian vaccine, the Sputnik vaccine, was 100% efficacy. But that's not accurate. There's no real vaccine that's going to be 100%. That would be deadly. But with the mRNA technology, I think we need to do a better job at really understanding. Now, it sounds like you have some command of it, but the understanding is not that well. In technical terms, it's very, very technical. But in layman's terms, the messenger is doing its job, right? Because right now we have over 54 million vaccinated, right? Total. That includes 1 dose and 2nd dose people, 54 million, right? And the response from those mRNA vaccines, and even if we deal with the VAERS reporting system, which deals with adverse effects and reports any initial agenda, we don't see the issues that are coming out. Now, this is not causing issues or problems amongst people. So I was really trying to comprehend, why would there be such a problem with advanced technology? By the way, mRNA, the research for mRNA has been prevalent for 30 years, right? Nanoparticles go back to 1995. This is not new stuff that we're dealing with. Technology has advanced vaccine science to help us be able to resolve things in the middle of a pandemic, but we also have to have to put this in proper context. This is a great move here. So the next question that I actually had, let me see, because there was a few other things. Ivermectin came into the conversation.
Well,
right?
before you go on, you mentioned messenger RNA, and you say that messenger RNA is dissolved. You never addressed messenger RNA and ribosomes. Can you address that? What is your knowledge of ribosomes and what they do with messenger RNA once it's in the body?
Yeah, it's basically like it's protein related. This is what we're at the end of the day. We're dealing with a communication tool that's protein related. Each one teach one is similar to what we believe in. Each one teach one. So
brother, Hemet, somehow you chopped up. Can you?
Oh, sorry. I was basically saying that the vaccine is when it comes to the ribosomes, And when it comes to the vaccine, it's all it is proteins communicating with one another. The easiest way to define it or to explain it is this messenger is all it's doing to the cell is saying each one teach one. Since it needs proteins to each one teach one, the ribosome's job is to help each one teach one, deliver the message, move and move, help build and respond, create and replicate, boost and train, because your immune system deals with the multitude of everything that you got going on. And so I'm gonna leave it right there because I do want to yield some time. I know Unc has some other questions, but it's just simply a each one teach one moment. That's what the ribosome's job is to do.
No, that's not what a ribosome only does, and see, that's what we need to get our people to understand. What do you know about ribosomal misreads? Are ribosomes foolproof? Do they always read correctly?
In dealing with the messenger RNA, in dealing with the COVID-19 vaccine, the messenger RNA vaccine, it's doing its job effectively based on the science. The ribosomes are communicating effectively. Now, I'm not talking about misreads or any left field anything, because I'm not focused on that. My focus is on Black people understanding how mRNA vaccines are safe, effective, working, and a solution, because we don't have an alternate solution. The alternate solutions we get do not create an immune response to help protect us against this novel virus.
That's not true.
All I'm saying is the ribosomes are doing with this particular, I'm being particular, with this particular vaccine, it is communicating. This is communicating and training. It is help moving the proteins where they need to go, do what needs to be done, replicating and rebuild. That's the job. Now, all the other stuff that you're asking me, I can't speak to that. I can only speak to the science that has been shown and proven to work.
You have to speak to that if you're talking. You're saying that the science is working. It's not work. You have to speak to that issue. And the other thing is that you were correct in that there. I doubt if there's any sort of vaccine that's 100%. But that same thing that you're saying there, it also applies to ribosomes, and you're not quite explaining ribosomes correctly. That is not what ribosomes do. Ribosomes are like a typewriter. They type out what the DNA is programming the protein to make. The DNA says, okay, I want you to make this specific sequence of letters, and type these sequence of letters, and the letters are A, C, G, A, T, and G and C. That's adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. And with RNA, it's uracil. I want you brother Inai Komet, I want you to tell me what the nucleotide sequence is. Tell me what it is. If you know the science, I want you to tell me what a nucleotide sequence is. Tell me what it is.
Go ahead.
Can I jump in real quick? Can I jump in real quick, brothers?
Brother,
how y'all doing? So,
let me just, bruh,
how you doing,
hold on, just 1 second, and I want you to express everything that you need to express, but we need to see you. I don't really like to do memes, and I'm giving Metasevia a pass because she didn't hit the beauty shop yesterday, but I really don't like to do the meme thing. Okay, thank you.
I know, but it cuts. I'm saying the stream yard, and it cuts down the power and it messes up the stream. But so I would like to say how the gentlemen doing and the sisters, how y'all doing today?
Beautiful brother, nice to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to say I'm not an expert. I'm a science advocate, and I'm a proponent of vaccines. So it's going to be a lot of things that I don't know. So what I want to ask you is, can you please present us with an article so that you can educate us on how these, what would you say, RNAs or ribosomes, how they misread? Where's the peer-reviewed literature on that, so that we can become part of the process of understanding exactly what you're saying? I'm just saying I'm not aware of that, Science is a large endeavor. So could you please direct us right now to that article that supports your claim? And one more question. Are you a virologist or immunologist?
I'm neither. You know, I attended medical school at the University of Toledo. I studied pharmacy at the University of Connecticut. I studied epidemiology at the University of Pittsburgh School of Public Health. Yeah. So in that sense, in medical school, we learn immunologists and we learn virology because that's part of our curriculum. And I think that Dr. Solomon has something up.
Yeah. No. I want the article that you was talking about. I need the name of the article and what journal it was published in. We would like to put it in our notes. We don't want to be behind on the science. We like to keep up to date. So I just need your supporting evidence in a peer-reviewed article, a good one, maybe the Lancet, maybe New England Journal of Medicine, maybe Pediatrics, something that we can actually read for ourselves to help support that. I'm just, I appreciate you actually presenting that, but what we do is we say we must source up so that we can become part of the learning process. So I'm not saying that I know how every cell works. I'm not making a point, sir. I just want to be as educated as you are on that particular idea. So I just want to know where exactly did you read that at?
Yeah, so we'll be happy.
Well, yes, brother. We read it. It's part of science. It's part of, like, when you learn multiplication, you look at objects, you say 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. We learn how ribosomes read messenger RNA, and we know in science you don't even have to write an article about it. It's part of basic science that ribosomes read messenger RNA that comes from DNA. That that DNA has a nucleotide sequence. The nucleotide sequence is adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Those are nucleotides, and certain orders of those nucleotides make who we are.
Question, you're right. I asked the wrong question. No. I know you're correct. And I meant in this particular technology, in this particular vaccine and vaccines, where have they been shown? That's what I'm saying. I understand that process, right? We know about how it reads, but I'm saying, and because your claim is not that it misreads, your claim is that this particular vaccine is causing things to misread. And so I'm asking, where is that claim supported at?
Yeah, that's not my claim. My claim is that my claim and our claim is that it can, and not only that it can, it will, because we know science, and there's nothing that the scientific literature has done so far to say that this vaccine has done that. There is no data for that. There's nobody even studying that. But that's part of what we should do as an African people that understand science to protect ourselves, is to take a deep dive into the science and see where the message that is coming from people that have been known to be our enemy is giving us to say, okay, we should just take this carte blanche. And you and the brother, I could tell that you are Afrocentric in mind, and you know that the scientists throughout history have not presented history for our benefit. You're correct. You understand that, correct?
No. I'm actually African-centered, and I wouldn't care about black, white, African. That's not even my point. My point is that this technology has been rolled out since like Shawn, 1990s, and so I'm sure there's a study showing that this technology that was used in cancer drugs, that it was actually misreading. So I just find it kind of not clear to the point that they were actually making, because you're actually applying it to the nanoparticle technology. And when you do that, then you have to show studies where this particular thing has happened since 1990. So that's all I'm saying. I just want to be precise in my question.
I have a question.
I'm trying to get that answered first, sis.
Yeah, I have a question.
I'll answer his question. Okay, lipid nanoparticles. Lipid nanoparticles, you're correct. They have been used for drug compounds before, and they have had their level of success. But there has never been any studies to review where the lipid nanoparticles are combining with the plasma membrane of our cells, and whether that is causing other concerns. They know in every study that there are adverse events that are caused, and in every drug that has been developed by lipid nanoparticles, of course there have been adverse events, but we don't know what those adverse events are. I can't tell you that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to tell you what it could cause. If there is a messenger RNA that goes into our body, the ribosomes have to read it. The ribosomes read all of our messenger RNA, and ribosomes misread our own messenger RNA. So we already know that it will misread a foreign messenger RNA because messenger RNA ribosomes have misreads sometimes. You can Google that. Everybody on this line, anybody listening to me,
I agree.
can Google
We agree.
ribosomal
We agree.
misreads.
So what are the harmful effects of that when it misreads?
Excuse me?
Normally, without just in general. I said, so then what are the harmful effects of the ribosomes misreading? Now, not even talking about vaccines. Just since you said it happens normally in the literature. So what is the effects of that in human beings that have not even been vaccinated, but they think just misreads? What are that? And where could I see that at? Because surely that's published somewhere on the harmful effects of the misreading of that. Go ahead, sir.
Well, ribosomal misreads can create foreign proteins because ribosomes have to read the messenger RNAs to produce the proteins the way we want to produce them. And when ribosomes misread, they produce foreign proteins. And sometimes those foreign proteins can turn out to be cancerous, meaning I urge you and the brother and anybody listening to review what happens with soft tissue sarcoma. Soft tissue sarcoma is a cancer that we still don't even know where it originally comes from, but certainly with ribosomal misreads, and we know that cancer is mutation of the cells or mutation of reading of DNA. We can clearly see through soft tissue sarcoma that something is happening that's going wrong with these misreads. Misreads can be harmless, brother, and anybody listening. Misreads can be harmless, no doubt.
Okay.
But misreads can also be harmful. And if you continually giving messenger RNAs every year, because you're going to need booster shots, you're going to increase your chances of ribosomal misreads. That's all. That's all.
We don't have any sufficient.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Sean.
We don't have any sufficient data that states that we're going to need booster shots every year from the vaccine, because if we vaccinate enough of the population, if we vaccinate enough of the population, if this process is slow, then we run the risk of this virus, which we've seen real time, mutate and create different variants of itself. You know, and we're aware of the different variants. However, as far as misreads from ribosomal misreads and anything like that, that's not a point of contention here in regard to how the vaccine works, how the mRNA vaccine is working and continues to work and has been working for now over almost a year, because the first human phase 1 trials is around that March date, and that's going to release even more data that people are unaware of. So for everyone with the that have the questions about the vaccine and how long it's taken to make the vaccine, it went through the same rigorous trials that every other vaccine on earth has went through. The only difference is yes, it has.
No,
it has. It went through animal. It went through animal testing. Went through animal trials in mice. No, hold on. And I know it's your show. I ain't trying to do you like that, but it went through animal testing.
Sean. Don't just put the source up, Sean.
I'm on my phone. So is went through animal testing.
All right, send it to me. I'll put it up for you.
With mice, and then it went to monkeys, and then it went to humans. And then what mRNA allows, what these trials allow were concurrent testings to continue. And when it went through all the rigorous studies, right? When something wasn't right and needed adjustments, they made those adjustments. We have a year's worth of data on the mRNA vaccine through its whole process, because they made it accessible. Things that we used to pay $300 for access to journals, the journals have given that COVID information free. So we have done our due diligence to not only invest in these scientific journals, we have also done our due diligence to learn the methodology regarding how to actually read this data and deal with the results and how they end. So this thing has went through rigorous studies. You don't get to the phase 3 trial if it has not made it through the early testings, and you're getting results from that. So the results are very favorable, right? Very favorable, and we have to deal with that. And I don't think that we're being honest enough here to say, all right, this vaccine is actually working. I think what we should be saying is we need to continue to do our research and studies, because it's not even my time, to actually get vaccinated. However, there's enough data for me now with 54 million people vaccinated that I can watch the 54 million people and understand that, man, this vaccine is working. And it's working at a pace so much so that people that don't look like me and you are trying to act like old people to get in line to get the vaccine sooner. Just happened in Florida. Doctors in Texas saying, well, instead of me throwing out these vaccines, I'm just going to go ahead and vaccinate my family and friends. And that's taking place. So that these people are doing everything in there, trying to pay $20,000 per person to move and skip the line to get vaccinated. And here we are, black folk. Nah, don't go get that vaccine. Well, then what do you want us to do if we can't go get the mRNA vaccine? Because that's what's available to us right now. And we really need to get our people vaccinated. We're suffering from this vaccine the most. What is our alternative? Because the data is showing and proving that, you know, what people are saying as an alternative is not sufficient.
The data doesn't show that. The data is padded stats. And what you said, Dr. Solomon has already said that, and she'll probably put up slides as well, that it has been an accelerated pace to put this drug out there for the market. Dr. Solomon, you can look at and show them.
Not a drug.
Go through that. The slide is up.
Yeah, so the slide is up. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so this is the accelerated version. So they never did a preclinical stage on this vaccine. They never done. They did 0. And for phase 1 trials, they, instead of taking 30 months, they did 6 months. They never did a monkey study. They went straight to humans. No preclinical study that they reported data on. On phase 2 trials, instead of taking 32 months, they did 6 months. For phase 3 trials, instead of 30, they did 0, and they went straight to emergency approval use. So if you have any data that shows they did an extensive study that you claim, please share with us.
Thank you.
So far,
Yes, ma'am.
So far,
yes,
the
ma'am.
data I have,
Yes, ma'am. Let's get to it.
the data I have, this is, instead of taking 5 to 7 years, they have months. And this is a new technology. Yes, they use the messenger RNA based for cancer therapy to kill your cells, not as a vaccine. And they use that technology now for your vaccine, which never worked before. And if you're using a therapy that was used to kill cells as a vaccine, but you have no toxicology, you have no evidence, published data to show me that it's working, how could you tell me to tell that to my people to take it? and they have no pre-existing information on messenger RNA. The messenger RNA vaccine that they used before for COVID-1, it never worked. That's why it never went to clinical trials, because the animal study failed. That's why it never went to humans. But this time they used this pandemic to expedite it, and they just went straight to humans injection.
And
so
we're still an experiment.
Yeah, which is still an experiment. And I want to share one more thing that's coming directly from them here. So when we're saying we don't want our people to do that, we're not anti-vax. There are other options, but I want you to tell me this. This is directly coming from, I want to go to the first page. This is directly coming from Pfizer information for the UK healthcare professionals. And you scroll down, this is how this monitor to allow identification of new safety. And if you go down, they have description, and you go down to their safety page. Here on fertility, there's limited with the use of vaccine on pregnant women. Do not indicate direct or indirect harmful on pregnancy. So they're saying should only be considered when the potential benefit outweigh more. So they don't even know what is the side effect on pregnant women. And right now, there's data that's coming out, people injected with this, they're having birth defects. This is the data that's coming up.
What source is that for that data? Because I have Pfizer's doing a clinical trial right now on pregnant women.
So I'll show you. And they have, tell me, this is coming from Pfizer that they submitted. Have you seen this that they gave to healthcare professionals? It's unknown whether this vaccine is treated in the human milk. They don't know what is the side effect is on the reproductivity of toxicity. Have you heard of this? They have no data on this. And the data, it's right now, it's being given, is on the national, I think, on another website that they're giving national vaccine side effects, that they're showing those data, those numbers. And we are happy to share that. But if you're claiming that this science works, and there's currently that they, a testimonial at the Congress where they're talking about how this nanoparticles integrate. There's a video, I'll be happy to dig it and show you. There's a testimonial by a doctor saying how this nanoparticles, they're showing it goes into the brain, and it's showing side effects into the brain, this nanoparticles. There's a lot of information coming out. And yes, nanoparticles exist. And tell me, you're saying it excretes. Which excretion method is it using? Is it using the kidney or the liver to be excreted from our body? What is the excretion method? We know that? We don't know that. Once it integrates into our plasma membrane, how is it leaving our plasma membrane and then leaving? Is it leaving through the kidney or the liver? They're not giving us that information. If you have a kidney problem, should you take it then? If you have a liver problem, should you take it? What is your option? We're not saying that. We're saying that there is a much more known technologies that are coming up from China, from India, as well as Cuba, that are much safer. And we should advocate for those vaccines to come to the US for us. We're not anti-vax. We're not saying people don't take vaccines. And we have a lot of natural prevention methods that we can use. There is a lot of data I can show you on the NAC that they did on clinical trials, how it's saving people, reducing the hospitalization, people that were on ventilators, respiration, that they were able to save those. I can give you those scientific papers, share with that, as well as the clinical trials on vitamin D. What we saw is that how much it helps, as well as zinc. So we have a lot of those information we can provide. And clearly, Dr. Fauci went on the radio, on the CNN, and said, this vaccine is not going to help you. It's not going to help you from being infected. It's not going to help you from any kind of protection. You're still going to be infected and you can still die from this. And go Google his interview on Como, saying how this vaccine is just a vaccine that might protect you from some kind of disease. That's what he clearly said. He didn't say it's going to protect you from COVID-19 vaccine. Google that. And if you cannot find those interviews, I'll be happy to show you. And if you're claiming you have rigorous scientific data that's published how this messenger RNA vaccines are working, please share with us. We're here to learn.
Yes, I would like to share. I have an article from the Journal of Nature. It's titled Coronavirus Vaccine Trials Have Delivered the First Results, but their promise is still unclear. This is in May 2020. That's the Journal of Nature. And so I would like to just add something to it to say tests of other fast-track vaccines show that they have prevented infection in the lungs of monkeys. So we heard in the conversation that he didn't try the vaccines in monkeys. But based off of the Journal of Nature says that. It said the monkeys exposed to SARS-CoV-2, but in some other parts of the body. It says one of the vaccines being developed at the University of Oxford, UK, that is also in human trials, protected 6 monkeys from pneumonia, but the animals' noses harbored as much virus as did those of unvaccinated monkeys, researchers report last week in a BioRex preprint. A Chinese group reported similar grievance about its own vaccines, early animal tests in this month. So I would just like to say that in the Journal of Nature, I'm just trying to tell what was y'all reading? Because like we said earlier, they absolutely tried it in monkeys. So I'm just trying to figure out where's our discrepancy at with that.
You kind of mixed them too. Actually, the AstraZeneca vaccine that you mentioned that was tried in monkey is not a messenger RNA vaccine. Are you aware of that?
Yes, we're well aware of it. That's why the data is rejected on AstraZeneca. They didn't like that the data was insufficient, and therefore we don't have an EAU with AstraZeneca because the data was insufficient. Like the efficacy in the trials, there was issues with the trials, right? And so the FDA was like, nah, we don't like your data. They continue to persist and move forward in other countries. However, some have also rejected that notion as well. The data comes back and shows, no, this is not an effective path. So we are paying close attention. You know, some of us have access to clinicaltrials.gov, which is a website where you can get all the clinical trials.
Yeah, we're on there all the time. Yep.
Right. So in the private chat, I can't post it for the viewing audience, but I've gave you a list of pre clinical trial data from Moderna, Pfizer. I think I also put in the information from Johnson & Johnson before I got kicked out. So those are the 3 that we're actually, talking about, but we're mainly focused on the mRNA vaccines that are available right now. This data is available. There's a lot of literature to read, and therefore that's why we have teams.
Shawn?
Yes.
Shawn, can we go to the New York Times? And the New York Times article talks about Moderna coronavirus vaccine test in monkeys, right? I don't even want to read it, but I'm just saying, like, we got to keep it straightforward. And it's about, if it's really about our people and it's really about us being African-centered, then in the center of African culture should always be the truth. I'm not saying y'all made it up or lied. I'm simply saying that I'm glad we're on this conversation so that the people listening can actually get both sides of the coin, and then they'll be allowed to make their decision. So there you go. And I can go straight to the actual journal itself. But the Moderna absolutely has been tested in monkeys. So I'm trying to figure out what was y'all reading that says it wasn't. That's what I want to see right now, so I can kind of compare notes.
Well, before Dr. Solomon goes into that one, I want to go into you saying that it's effective, and I want all of us to understand how manipulation of science and how manipulation of it works. My background is epidemiology. That's the statistical analysis of disease trends. One of my masters is in that. And when you look at the data and how you can skew data to make it sound like it's working and it may not be. Okay, let's look at a few things here. We have access to clinicaltrials.gov. All of us have that. It's open to the public. We know that Pfizer tested 43 43,000 people, 43,669 people. And when they tested those people, you have to have an inclusion-exclusion criteria in order to enter the trial. Now, the 44 some odd thousand people that entered that trial, none of them were tested as to whether they ever even had COVID virus before they entered the trial in the first place. We know that COVID virus is asymptomatic in 40 to 80% of the people.
Mr. Jefferson.
So if once they were injected with the vaccine and they looked at the data to see whether it was effective, all they did was to ask for people to go back into your normal society and live your life and see if you catch COVID vaccine. And if you have symptoms, come back and let us know. Now, there's two things that they miss in the skewed data, is that they did not allow for those people they did not account for the people that already had COVID vaccine when they entered the trial. So they had already mounted an immune response. And if they were exposed to it again, they may not mount immune response again.
Moderna tested their people before their trials.
Okay. And then after Moderna, I said Pfizer, I didn't say Moderna.
Yeah.
And so once they did leave that trial, they still didn't account for the asymptomatic people that caught COVID. So if they didn't account for the asymptomatic people that caught COVID at the end, and they didn't account for the asymptomatic people from the beginning, then how can you say it's 94% effective when you don't know whether you count asymptomatic patients or not? So the data is skewed, and when we're talking about truth, when we're talking about truth, we have to mention that as truth. Let's stay on Pfizer. And Pfizer is a major component of the 54 million people that you said have had this vaccine. Out of the 54 million people, at least 28 million of those people have come from Pfizer. So let's not leave Pfizer. Let's stay there. And you tell me whether based on what I have just presented to you, does that amount to something being 94% effective that's being reported to us as a people? It doesn't make sense, brother.
Yes.
And it doesn't make sense.
They don't have to test them. They don't have to test them. Why they don't have to test them? Because they know that the efficacy in natural immunity is like 45 days, right? We can give you an extra couple of a month or so, right? Because Malcolm, who's administering the vaccine while we're talking right now, he's in Memphis working right now, administering the vaccine to people. He caught COVID. He's a brother on our team. He works in the field. Okay, he's administering the vaccine right now. He works for the fire department. He's credentialed up too. So he caught COVID because he was dealing with these people, right? He caught COVID. He waited a month. Then he got his vaccine. Now they said they really wanted him to wait 3 months. But because of more informed data that they have now, he didn't have to wait 3 months, right? So when he got his vaccine, it kind of acted as if it was a booster to what he already had. Now he's still in line to get his other dose in the next 2 weeks. However, knowing that, see, you ain't got to have that. You don't have to have them testing. Pfizer didn't have to have them testing, knowing what they knew. What we're
you're making an excuse for a large pharmaceutical company, brother.
We're trying,
brother. You are making an excuse.
Efficacy rates. We're talking about the efficacy rates here, and we're talking about a real life case. So I don't have to really depend on Pfizer. I have a real life case study. His name is Malcolm.
That's one person, brother. That's not research. That's not science. That's one person.
It's a real life case study. What do you mean? You can't pull him to the side. The brother.
That's not science. That's one person.
I have a question for you.
That's all of science.
No, I have a question for you. I have a question. I have a question. You claim the natural.
No, you can't ask a question in the middle of the man talking. Now it's getting a little rude. Let's time out for a minute.
Time out. let's just take a moment and just pause and breathe. We all need to do that right now. Just take a few breaths. If we have too many people talking at the same time, nobody gets any understanding. We really want understanding. I hadn't anticipated that we would have a full-blown debate today, but I did want to provide an opportunity for the other side of the story to be told. And it is something that definitely does need to be addressed. I can see on both sides of the equation that we have people who are doing research, we're looking at numbers, we're reading reports, we're reading the medical journals and so forth and so on. And this is really important for us to have this conversation, because then it's not just based on opinion, it's based on science, it's based on research, and I fully appreciate that. But I do want to bring some civility back into the room as we have this conversation. Dr. Solomon, I know that there was something that you were attempting to convey, and you've given us some charts and graphs in order to illustrate what you're trying to convey. So I want to welcome you back to make the point that you wanted to make, so that we can continue the flow of information, and we can just take this brief pause to bring civility back to our conversation. So Dr. Solomon, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. So I have a question. If you're claiming that natural immunity is not lasting long enough in our body, how long is this vaccine from the Moderna or Pfizer injection? How long is it staying in our body? How long do we have? Do we have data on that? How long does it stay in our body to protect us? Do you have any public?
Moderna has actually responded. Moderna has responded to your question specifically. They actually stated over a year's worth of immunity and still counting. They just started this medication, this vaccine.
Right.
Like, how long do you know it's staying?
No, ma'am. Do
you have those public
people to receive Moderna's vaccine in the phase 1 trials was last year. Like I said earlier, we're coming up on the first humans in America receiving the mRNA vaccines. We're approaching that mark. We're getting to that March date, that critical date of a year. So they have the data. And when it's released, it'll be released.
What data? What data?
All right. When they began to start testing the first humans in March, right? We're talking about preclinical trial data, right? When they start testing the first people in March, that they're gaining their sense of cockiness, as what some people would say, right? Or touting the vaccine, right? Because of the data that they have been getting and studying and watching over this whole year, last year. Not only from the mice, but the monkeys, right? Not only from the mice and monkeys, but also the first phase humans. We can't act like that data does not exist, because
there's no data. What you have to begin to look at is the amount of immune response antibodies. What level of antibodies do we have from mounting an immune response from having COVID itself at first, and what are the level of antibodies that are mounted by Pfizer and Moderna from the messenger RNA vaccine? Now, to your point, we do think, based on the data coming, that the Moderna and the Pfizer mRNA vaccines are mounting a longer period of time of antibodies in the body. That's the truth. But don't say that you can discount the natural immunity that's developed from a person that has the disease and say that that person can be enrolled on a trial and not catch COVID virus because they had already mounted an immune response, that immune response had nothing to do with it. That's not science. And that's what we're saying.
What I'm saying to you,
that's not science. That's not, you're giving the vaccine credit for what the natural immune system had already produced.
I'm not.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you.
And then you can go. Let me say this, bro.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying the company.
All right. So the natural immunity thing has already been tried and true, right? We've dealt with this. They've already given us data on this so-called natural immunity. The antibodies are simply
So-called natural immunity. So-called. Are you serious?
You cutting them off, bro. Come on,
No,
man.
no,
I'm a
that's
professional.
ridiculous.
Come
You're
on,
saying so-called natural immunity,
no, sir.
but real Moderna. This conversation
Let me get in.
It's not worth having. If that's
Oh, he just threw his gun. You just threw your gun.
It is.
In my circles, when you start throwing slurs and you threw your gun. Really, the conversation
I did.
is over with, sir.
I did.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you loudly on here. I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all lying. They didn't miss any steps in the trials. That's a lie. Show me the article where they actually missed trials, where they actually missed steps. We can go to the New England Journal of Medicine. They did all the steps. They just put them together, bro. I want the source from a credible journal, the Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of Science, the Journal of Nature, JAMA, that states that they missed any steps in creating this vaccine. They absolutely did not miss any steps. With that, I'm out of here, Mr. Shawn.
I have a question.
We're out too.
I have one more question.
Because they're being cut off and they doing it, and that's not fair.
You're a joke. You're a joke.
I have a question. If they claim to have all that information, why is it called emergency use medicine, emergency use vaccine, if they went through the whole step? Then it should not be for emergency use medicine vaccine only. It should be just full approval. It's still experimental vaccine if they went through the same rigorous science.
Well, what I can say in observing what just happened, and I know that we've gotten to a point where emotions have entered our conversation. The jury is out. I'll just put it that way. The jury is out. There are a lot of things that we have just talked about that they just don't add up to me. You know, if they just started administering these vaccines this past December, then how can we say that it has been adequately tested? If there was a vaccine that testing was done on a year ago, last March, then how were they able to test the vaccine then? It's not adding up to me right now. But what I will say is that we have a lot to digest in the conversation that we just had. We have been given some resources. I know, to put it in the vernacular, you have receipts and they have receipts. And I think what's going to end up happening is that everyone's going to have to come to a personal decision about what they decide to do. I want to also underscore the fact that nobody on this call right now and nobody on the call who just left is against vaccines. So this is not an anti-vax video. This is not an anti-vax, don't take the vaccine conversation. This is about making the best informed decision that you can make about your body, because once that vaccine is administered, there's no going back. There's no reversing what has been done. So I encourage everyone who is watching this broadcast right now to do your homework, to gravitate toward what resonates with you, and to make the best decision that you can make for yourself. It's heartening to realize that we do have more than one option. I think you've made it abundantly clear that there are a number of vaccines that are in development, and there are probably vaccines that are being tested and tried. And so we'll have to go through all that we have to go through to make sure that all the steps are being followed and safety is of the utmost importance. There are so many conspiracy theories about this, and those conspiracy theories are probably what is fueling the fear that so many people have. From a personal perspective, I just look at history. I just look at the relationship between those who have not had our best interests in mind when it comes to us. And Tuskegee comes up in a lot of conversations about that. And I know, the flags go up whenever anybody mentions that whole piece. But, the fact of the matter is that it has happened. When we look at the medical industry in this country and we look at all the things that have happened to us during research, when we look at all the things that are happening to us now, as we consume things that are not in our best interest, that we just run to, Brother Lewis, you have clearly demonstrated with the research that you have brought that high fructose corn syrup is not good for you. You've talked about how important D3 is, and you've also illustrated that many people in this country have vitamin D3 deficiencies, and as a result, their immunity is not as strengthened, to use Brother Shawn's language, is not as strengthened as it could be. So there are so many things that we can do to experience a better quality of health and provide what we need in order to be healthy, whether we take a vaccine or not. And I would implore those of you who are watching this broadcast right now to do everything that you can to implement measures within your own life to experience the best possible health that you can have. So there are things that you can do. You can drink the proper amount of water that you need. You can consume healthy, nutritious foods and back away from some of those foods that destroy your immunity or compromise it. There, you can do the things that the government is recommending in terms of wearing the mask and keeping your distance and all that other kind of stuff. I know there's a rhyme and a reason for that. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But right now, legislatively, we are required to do those things. So we have to do those things. But in addition to the things that the government is recommending, there are things that you can do. There are things that you have control over within your own life. So I implore you to make sure that you do those things. I want to implore you to make sure that you communicate and you love the people who are in your family circles, and you reach out to the people in your communities who are being separated from the things that help keep them alive. There are all things that we can do within our own respective lives to experience a good quality of life and not live in the fear that is being proliferated, not just here in America and around the world. There were some other questions that I wanted to get to, and I know, Brother Lewis, you have some work to do, and I'm sure that Dr. Solomon, she was gracious enough to join us today, and I'm sure that she had some other things to do as well. But I want to thank you for spending this time with us today. I want to invite you to return at some point in time so we can get an update on where things are. So we have a better idea of how effective things are and what some of the alternatives are in terms of these particular vaccines that we talked about, and possibly some others that might not be as problematic. Clearly, there are some issues with it, and the other side will probably say, well, no, those issues are unfounded, but I'm not an expert. That's why I consult people who have credentials, and I'm not going to argue with your credentials. I think they speak for themselves, and I think you're more than qualified to offer the information that you are. But the research is there, the documents are there, and if you're diligent enough, you can uncover what you need to know with the documentation that is available. So in conclusion, I would just like to ask if there's anything that you'd like to offer before we conclude the broadcast.
No, I think that sums it up. It's good to have those sort of level debates, community debates. I would hope that at some point we have like some other medical professionals that come on and we have that conversation as well. And so we have a level and balance of understanding of science, and we can have conversations about that as well. I think it was excellent. We got to have these conversations, whether they're amicable, which they started off, and whether they get heated, because we're passionate people and we want the best for our people. So we'll see what happens down the line, and we'll continue to put the information that we put out, and we hope people that it resonates with some people, and we hope that we can keep people healthy.
Okay. Dr. Solomon, any parting words from you, my sister?
Yes, I would like to thank you for organizing this, and I know it was a good heated debate, and I would like to come back and present to people what are other clinical trials they discredit vitamin D. There's a lot of published papers showing the benefit of vitamin D. NAC is not like if you're taking this vaccine is all it all, so don't pay onto that fear. And I really highly recommend people to look at the data information coming in from Europe, on this Pfizer vaccine, all the diseases and that is being reported from Latin America. Just expand your world and see what are the information coming in from that and what are your options are. And I'll be more than happy to come back again and give you a much more detailed published data or our analysis again on prevention, or if you have what can you do, as well as based on the latest information on the vaccines data.
Okay. You know, and I know we're winding things down, but I'm just curious, Brother Lewis and Dr. Solomon, why the numbers are so disproportionately high in America in comparison to other countries around the world?
As far as the disease itself?
Well, the number of cases, the number of deaths, you know, I mean, when you look at America, you see such a high number of cases and deaths, but then you go to a place like Africa and you see much lower numbers, with the exception of South Africa and maybe somewhere else on the continent. But why are the numbers so high in America? And, you know, you talked about vaccines being used in other parts of the world, but then you got the 3 that they're using here. So why are the numbers so high here, and why are they disproportionately high here in comparison to other places?
Yeah, I think one, I mean, the comparison would be with China, because they have densely populated areas in China and they have rural areas where they're dispersed, and they were able to isolate the virus much faster because they paid attention to it and they isolated the people. They did contact tracing. They were able to control it even without a vaccine because they had public health services. They allowed for their people to stay home, and they provided meals for them through socialist type programs. In us, we wanted to maintain our economy. At one time, Dr. Fauci came on the air and said there was no pandemic. I remember that back in March, in late March, when there was, it had already hit Iran, it had hit Italy, it had hit France, hit the United States, and was going into India and as well as in South Africa. We also know that because of the humidity in the southern regions and the heat and humidity, that reduces the amounts of spread. But we think that it has a lot to do with the fact that we wanted to be in denial and we wanted to keep our economy open to make money. We also know that due to globalization, a lot of everybody is coming in and out of here all the time, and that we're creating and we're spreading it throughout the rest of the world. The countries that isolated, like South Korea, North Korea, Vietnam, China, have very, very low numbers, and it was without a vaccine. And they also have socialized medicine that takes care of their population of people through medicine in those means.
Okay. One last question, and I'm asking this question based on conversations that I've had, and I want to clear it up for myself. If you agree to take the vaccine, do you have to sign any type of document that you waive any liability to the maker of the vaccine that was administered to you?
You know, I'm not, Dr. Solomon, I think you know more about that too. I don't know for sure, but I think you had some information about that.
Yeah, and there is a law that's done by President Reagan that any of those vaccine makers are not liable to any of that. If you die, if you have any side effect, any disabilities, they're not liable for that. They're protected by the law.
Okay, but the question is, do you have to sign anything before the vaccine is administered?
Yes, you do, because you're still, that's why they're monitoring everybody. If you heard them saying, if they're monitoring them after a year, that means you're part of a clinical trial. So when you go into clinical trial, you're putting in yourself at risk because you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. So you're signing your liability on that.
Okay. So just to sum things up right now, what we are in the midst of is a clinical trial of an experimental vaccine.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to end it there because I think that really puts it into a certain perspective, and you can take it however you would like to. But that's the reality of where we are right now. We're hopeful that as these vaccines continue to exist and we get others that come out, that we will have sufficient testing so that we can make educated and informed decisions about what we choose to do to protect our immunity, strengthen our immunity, protect ourselves and our lives through whatever means, whether it's an immune response stimulated by a vaccine or whether it's the fact that you're getting sunshine, you're getting rest, you're getting proper nutrition, whatever it takes for you to be healthy. We want to sincerely hope that that is what happens for you. Brother Lewis, Dr. Solomon, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this probably went a lot longer than we expected. You know, I thought we might just add a few footnotes to the show in a half hour or so, but you know, we had the debate that we had, and again, I won't apologize for it. This is what happens in the heat of battle, and you know, brothers, the Masi warrior clan, so they are warriors, and they stand up for what they believe in, and I take no umbrage to that. I think that you should be passionate about what you believe in. I think there's equal passion on the other side of this argument. So, you know, sometimes in the heat of the battle, you know, the spears fly, the swords fly, the bullets fly. But when it's all said and done, we have a better understanding that we can move forward from. So that is what we will do. We will have this battle, we will move forward, and we will make the best possibly informed decisions that we can have. So with that, I'm going to say, peace and blessings, Aluta Continua, Hotep, and all that good stuff. Y'all keep doing what you do. I'm sure they'll keep doing what they do. And a year from now, we'll have the same conversation again. And hopefully we will all be smiling. We will all be beautiful as we are right now. And we, above everything else, will all still be African.
Those were our brothers. We love them, but we'll duke it out too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.